On today's video, we will be discussing what is social procurement. For those unaware, social procurement is a program similar to Supplier Diversity that looks to connect with local suppliers, small businesses, and diverse businesses, as well as looking at the social, environment, and economic impact of these vendors. Welcome back. My name is Jamie White, and today we will be discussing what is social procurement. Now, with all of our educational videos, we like to start just to inform you on different ways that you can support our podcast today as well as in the future if you're interested. These podcasts are brought to you by Supplier T News. As you can see here, if you're interested in supporting us, feel free to become a member of our online news platform, which gives you information on supplier diversity, small business, and other pertaining industries. As you can see, if you were to become a member today, the first month would be 99 cents, and then after that, it's $5.99 from there. So as always, we also want to point out that if you like what we're doing here, don't be afraid to like the video, subscribe for more information on our educational videos, leave a comment, and then also share with anyone who you think would be interested in this type of information. So, to begin the social procurement piece of our educational videos, the first thing that we really need to understand is what is procurement? Excuse me. Now, I know the majority of you who have been following us probably know at the very bare minimum, the overview of what procurement is, but we definitely have to establish this to then understand what social procurement is and how it kind of interacts with that. So what is procurement? As you can see on the first point, procurement refers to the business act of obtaining products and or a service from a company. So pretty basic, right? Really what we're talking about here is an organization or a government entity that's looking to, like it says, obtain a product or service so that they can utilize that product or service that they may currently be unable to either do, or it's not something within their prime business model, so they have to kind of push it out to a third party to achieve that goal or to get that service or product. Now, product procurement departments, as you can see, when selecting a supplier specifically, there are a ton of qualifying factors, right? So obviously the quality of the product or service, the time of delivery would be another big one. Once again, obviously the biggest one would probably be the cost of the product or service as well. So just different pieces of that kind of make up how a organization or entity selects a supplier. And then from there, as you can see, procurement departments tend to operate under some type of budget, like we were talking about before. The big piece there is what is the cost for the supplier. So really that entire process of reaching out to a potential supplier, understanding what it is that they offer in terms of the service or product, how does that fit into what the company's doing currently, and then purchasing that service or product. Now, what is social procurement, right? We understand what procurement is, but how does social procurement kind of come into place with this? So as you can see, social procurement is the focus of obtaining products or services while generating social value above and beyond the value of the goods or service. So really what we're talking about here is kind of a new thinking of how to procure or how to purchase a product or service, right? So in the last slide, we were talking about, quality of goods, time of delivery, cost of service. But now we're kind of taking the next step and understanding, okay, I've got these 2 or 3 suppliers and, quality of the product is pretty similar. The time of delivery is pretty similar as well. But which one is going to give me the best, social good? Like how many people will I be impacting if I purchase from a specific supplier? Is this product that I'm buying, is it environmentally friendly? Just looking at additional pieces to that whole procurement department process, if you will, when they're purchasing from a supplier. So, supplier diversity versus social procurement. So, kind of just wanted to, we've been doing a couple of videos on what supplier diversity is. So, I definitely wanted to take a look at a comparison on what are the key, what does each represent, and if there are any differences. So, first point, supplier diversity is an action-based business strategy that focuses on underrepresented groups, really. So purchasing from minority-owned, women-owned small businesses, veteran-owned, etc. A social procurement can consider these within its own process. So it can take a look at minority businesses, small businesses, women-owned businesses, veterans-owned businesses, but it'll also take it a little step further, and also include things such as the social impact, like I mentioned, the environmentally sound. What are they doing in addition to that are making sure that the world 10 years from now is on the right track. In addition, I did kind of leave this in here as well, the third point, which is kind of when it comes to supplier diversity, there's really a lot of people put the kind of goals into those processes. So they'll say, 20% of my vendors I want to go to diverse suppliers or small businesses, etc. Versus social procurement, which really takes a look at everything that's being purchased, right? Because even if you're purchasing from a large company, you may still want to understand what the social impact is when purchasing from them. So maybe if a large company has some type of scandal that's going on, you may not purchase from them because you're looking at it from a social procurement standpoint when it comes to that piece. So just explaining it another way, while the regular procurement really looks at the economic and physical impact of a procurement decision, social procurement looks at what's called the community capital or the community impact of a purchasing decision. So if you break that down, what is community capital? We look at the different ways that purchasing from a supplier can impact the community around you, right? So human capital. So what are skills, learning, and training that's happening with that supplier? Maybe they're training new, 100 veterans to do a certain type of job. So obviously that would be a benefit and a reason why you could purchase from them. Economic capital. So obviously income finances. So what is the cost, things of that nature. What's the social capital? Family, networks, institutions. What are, is this company, are they, doing things such as reaching out to help benefit families that may be, underrepresented, maybe impoverished, maybe families that are looking to, take the next step when it comes to growing themselves and their network and their net worth. And then, cultural capital, which is diversity. Obviously you want to make sure that whoever you're purchasing from matches the community that you currently exist in. And then lastly, physical capital. So, manufacturing, property, natural. So, that gets into, where are they located? Once again, are they in the community? Are they providing jobs, etc. And I got this, I will have a list of the links where I got this from, and I'll also include that in the video, or excuse me, in the description below as well, so that you can see where we're getting this. And if you're interested in learning more, definitely, take a look. So current trends of social procurement. So social procurement is a federal policy. So it's not just a federal policy, but when we're taking a look at the current trends, it's really big on the government level. So a federal policy currently used to diversify the government and ultimately business supply chains in the countries, including. So as you can see below, we've got Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. So those are really the big three countries that have implemented a social procurement strategy when they're looking to purchase their own products and services. And they are also pushing that to the corporations that they're involved in as well, to try to get them to implement, different processes to ensure that they're purchasing from, companies that are going to have that community capital benefit, like we mentioned before. As you can see, social procurement can also be used in the private sector and non-private sectors as well. So there is written documentation where it kind of talks about how each of these levels, government, private, and then nonprofit, can handle a social procurement strategy and what are the best ways to do that. And again, that'll be included as well. So examples of social procurement, kind of what is this, right? So, we've kind of gone through what the overview of maybe the theory and kind of the description of what it is, but I felt like a specific example would also help kind of wrap your minds around, excuse me, what this looks like. So for starters, a social procurement policy in Texas would be different than a social procurement program in Montana or Mississippi, right? This will reflect, for each of these, this will reflect the population breakdown, community organizations, types of businesses, and more. So, going back to the supplier diversity example, if we're looking at a supplier diversity program, we're looking at essentially the same types of suppliers, and the only thing that would probably change is like the goals, right? So You may have minority-owned businesses and that you're looking for in one state versus, women-owned businesses in another state versus veteran-owned businesses in another state. And you might want to, focus in on one specific piece. And with this, when it comes to social procurement, it's a little more, I guess, expanded, because what environmentally friendly means in California may be different than what environmentally friendly means in Montana or different states like that. And the reason why I'm saying that is, maybe a state that's, highly oil driven may want to take a look at the environment and how oil may impact that versus automotive driven, how that impacts that versus, if you're doing agriculture, right? Maybe the state's kind of focusing on the environmental impacts on that. And I do want to point out that there's more than environmental, but for the examples, these are just kind of, real easy to understand, oil versus automotive versus agriculture, obviously different. So you're really understanding, what kind of suppliers are you looking for, and really understanding what you're in those suppliers, what does it mean to focus on a social procurement strategy, which can change from a state to state perspective in a number of ways outside of just, or not just, but outside of, the ethnic or gender breakdown or, sexual orientation, veterans, etc., disabled. So next point, in Australia, for example, social benefit suppliers may include indigenous businesses, social enterprises, intermediate labor market companies, fair trade social enterprises, or community development finance institutions. So as you can see, it's just a number of different companies, from nonprofit to as you can see, fair trade social enterprise. So there's just a lot of different breakdown when it comes to kind of creating your social procurement, connecting with different organizations, as well as understanding your social procurement strategy and what that means on a state level to a city level to a national level. So what are the desired outcomes? So it's very similar to supplier diversity, in that it looks to improve the community as a whole, right? That's really what it's going for. Understanding that, when it comes to procurement just in general, you are looking for the best supplier, right? But what we're doing now here is trying to understand what that term best means, right? Maybe in the past, best may have just meant looking at two things, right? It may have just meant quality of product and cost of product, right? Then, maybe further along, it may mean three things, right? Which is cost, quality, and then time of delivery. So now we're just kind of expanding that criteria a little bit more to understand, okay, you got those three, but what is also the social impact, right? Are you creating jobs in the community to ensure that the people who who could potentially be our future maybe voter base or our future customers, making sure that they have the net worth to afford our products, or are looking to, for example, vote for us in the next 4 years or however long, 6 years, whatnot. So making sure that the community is benefiting from it. And then, as you can see, as we grow in 2020, there's now more of a focus in creating an environment that is desirable for the maximum amount of individuals for the future generations. So really creating and establishing a community that is benefiting from a procurement strategy that is inserted either by their government entity or their large corporations, is something that a lot more people are looking at and trying to figure out how to do that correctly. With that being said, that's social procurement and kind of the rundown of that. If you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out. As you can see, the email's on the screen, jamie.white@suppliertnews. You can also follow us at different social media outlets, which include Twitter, Facebook, Medium, and LinkedIn. As always, please like, subscribe, share the video, and comment if you want to, let us know how we did. Last point, just going to show you kind of the links on where we're at. Once again, this will be in the description below. But as you can see, we're pulling it from a lot of government, agencies, if you will, just because those are really the big ones that have implemented it. But if you, once again, are looking for more information, feel free to check these links out. With that being said, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great day.